Welcome from Sarmizagatusa, ancient Dacian capital. Here in Carpathian Mountains, I would like to tell you about the history of Dacian people who lived here for centuries in ancient times and were fighting Romans very fiercely and was so close to defeat them and sustain their independence for the next centuries. But they didn't, and they finally created here new province called Dacia, but this province won't last long. I will tell you today about the whole history of Dacians in present-day Romania. Dacian tribes came here in 3rd century BC, and they were influenced with various tribes living around them, mainly from Greece, because Greek colonies were present on the western bank of Black Sea. The Greek culture was very strongly influencing Dacians. Also, the Sarmatians and Scythes from the steppe was influencing them with their nomad culture. And from the west, there was Celtic and Germanic influence on Dacians living here. They built their own very sophisticated culture. They had great natural resources here. They had gold, silver, tin, copper and iron, and their smithing was extraordinary. They created unique weapons called falcons. It was a very long sword shaped like a scythe, something like this, and this sword was two-handed, so the mighty Dacian warrior was able to cut every armor present on the ancient battlefield when they were fighting. It was so strong that when they hit a Roman legionnaires' helmet, they smashed the helmet half, and even if the helmet sustained the hit, the brain and the neck of the legionnaire was crushed. So it was a very deadly weapon, and Dacian warriors were one of the best barbarian warriors in the beginning of 1st millennium AD.
The first great Dacian ruler was Burebista, who lived from about 100 BC to 44 BC. His capital was Sarmizagatusa, the place where I am now. He waged a series of victorious wars with his neighbors, gradually expanding the borders of his kingdom. In the long war, he defeated the federation of Celtic tribes from Pannonia, including the Boii, destroyed their main center in the present Bratislava region. He took advantage of Rome's involvement in the Third War with Mithridates. He took over Dobruja with numerous Greek cities, including Histria, Tomis, and even farther to the south, Odessos. He defeated the Germanic Bastarne, reaching the lands between the Carpathians and the Dniester River, including the long strip of the Black Sea coast between the Danube Delta and the Dniester River, taking over Greek cities there. In 48 BC, Burebista became involved in the Roman Civil War, forming an alliance with Caesar's opponents. But Pompey's defeat at the Battle of Pharsalus and his imminent death put Burebista in danger of war with Caesar. However, the conqueror of Gaul was murdered in 44 BC and did not manage to implement his plan. Burebista died shortly after, and after his death, the Dacian state broke up into several independent kingdoms. This removed the danger from the Dacian for some time, and thanks to Marcus Livius Crassus, Rome was able to occupy the territories of Thrace as far as the Danube River. What's worse, the Dacians were invaded by Jazyges and Roscolans, Sarmatian tribes that came from the east. The Jazyges occupied the Hungarian Valley and Roscolans the Dniester Valley. Nevertheless, in 69 AD and in 85 AD, the Dacian rulers united and made two plundering raids south to the Danube River. Emperor Domitian, ruling from 81 to 96 AD, decided to counter this danger, and in 86 he sent an army of 40,000 soldiers under the command of Cornelius Fuchsus to conquer Sarmizagatusa, but history is written by the victorious, so not much is known about this expedition. Dacians certainly did not fail, and the 5th Legion disappeared from the face of the earth. Probably thousands of Romans were buried in the Carpathian forests by the warlike Dacians led by Decebalus. 2 years after the defeat of Cornelius Fuchsus, in 88 AD, another Roman general, Lucius Titius Julianus, led another powerful army deep into Dacia. The Dacian sent envoys with a bold demand. "Let's make peace. Pay 2 obols for the head of each inhabitant of your empire." This only ensures Emperor Domitian that there will be no peace with Dacian, so his general leads his armies through the iron gates on the Danube. And he managed to win Battle of Tepe and begin to encircle the capital Sarmizagatusa, but he was unsuccessful. In the same time, Domitian had big problems in the Germanic limes. The Jazyges, Marcomanni, Quadi were attacking, and despite the victory, the terms of peace with Decebalus were very favorable, recognizing him as a king and financing his infrastructures and building some fortifications by the Roman engineers. The proud king of Dacians, even though he lost an important battle and is now receiving a merciful peace, is still acting very sneaky toward Romans. He sent his brothers to sign the peace with Rome, and then, giving back the prisoners and the captured symbols of the legions, he is doing with very big delay. Dacia is becoming the most powerful neighbor to the north and the second most powerful neighbor of Rome in the world, because the Parthian Empire is obviously the priority. Domitian is extremely criticized for the indulgence to the barbarians, but until the end of his reign, nothing changes in this matter. But now, in 98 AD, Trajan comes to power in Rome. An extremely talented and ambitious general is now an emperor who will not tolerate the power of Dacia. Trajan is preparing one of the largest military campaigns in the history of Roman Empire. He is bringing elite cohorts from all over the empires, including 7 full legions from Illyria and Macedonia, as well as thousands of auxiliary forces, countless engineers, and a fleet that will supply the huge army across the Danube River. In the total, there are more than 100,000 soldiers. It's one-third of all forces Empire had at the peak of his power. Engineers built bridges and roads to ensure efficient access of supplies. In 101, the war machine is launched. Trajan successfully leads a powerful army reinforced by Germanic Suebi and Sarmatic Jazyges. He conquers city by city, and Decebalus avoids confrontation, only gathering more and more reinforcement from the east part of his country. Finally, after conquering all the lowlands in the west, it's time to confront the Carpathian fortresses of the Dacians. Here, the great battle of Deva takes place. Approximately 50,000 soldiers of Trajan against approximately 70,000 soldiers of Decebalus. Both sides were hesitating to make a decisive attack, realizing that this is the moment that everything will be clear. However, one autumn day, a powerful storm broke out, and there was lightning, and the Romans decided that the Jupiter was personally giving them a signal to attack. The great mass of legionnaires moved forward through the muddy ground near Deva, and they started extremely bloody battle that probably lasted several days. Finally, Decebalus ordered a retreat, but he was not crushed. Thousands of Romans died, and there were so many wounded, apparently no bandages, that Trajan gives himself his clothes to be cut to bandage the needy soldiers. The Dacians retreated to their mountain fortresses, and meanwhile winter came. Trajan ordered to stop the campaign and wait until the spring, but the frost was extremely strong, and Decebalus sent envoys to ask for peace, thus hiding his true intentions. Meanwhile, the cunning Dacian king had a great ass up in his sleeves, a second army of several thousand warriors, which, together with their Germanic Bastarne and the Sarmatian Roscolans, crossed the frozen Danube and advanced on the almost defenseless Roman province in January 102. The Roman forts in Mysia fell one by one, and the barbarian army successfully blocked the Danube from the fleet supplying the legions far to the north deep in Dacia. Trajan found himself in a very difficult situation. In this situation, unable to afford the Roman provinces to be plundered by invasions, Trajan ordered retreat and headed through the Dacian Sarmatic army in Mysia. First, they were fighting a night battle near Nicopolis, which turned out to be inconclusive, and then Trajan finally managed to crush the united army at Adamisi, where finally the forces of Roman enemies were crushed after a bloody battle, and Decebalus asked for truce, which Trajan, tired of war, accepted. The Dacians lost a lot of land and have to give back all war machines they received from Rome since 88 AD, and Decebalus had to consider himself subordinary to Rome and not pursuing an independent foreign policy. As you can easily guess, the cunning king of Dacians did not intend to keep these conditions. Already in 105, he started the Second War with Rome, attacking the areas beyond the Danube conquered by Trajan 3 years earlier. Meanwhile, apart from military actions, he also sent assassins to eliminate the emperor, but his plan did not work. Trajan was furious. He organized another great army of 100,000 men and marched straight towards Sarmizagatusa to finish Dacian problem once and for all. After the long siege, Dacian capital fell, but Decebalus managed to escape, and for the following months he was pursued by the Romans, until, driven to the extreme, he committed suicide to avoid being captured. This is how the greatest leader of the ancient Dacians ended his life. If he hadn't run into Trajan, one of the greatest emperors of the Roman Empire, he probably would won the war. But this clash of two titans was victorious for Rome, which had much greater resources at its disposal. But we have to praise Dacians for being able to fight so skillfully against the largest empire that existing on the earth at this time. Dacia became a Roman province for almost 200 years, and in 271 Aurelian ordered it to be abandoned, and he was unable to defend against uncontrolled influx of free Dacians, Goths and Gepids. But this is completely another story. Thank you for watching, and I love to invite you for more movies created by Ziemowit about history.